Terry Wilson, welcome to Team Trek Podcast.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Man, it's really good to get you out here.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this episode. So, real quick for the viewers at home, you did 24 years in the Army, retired as a sergeant major out of 7th Special Forces Group. Over that 24-year career, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff. It was all during the global war on terror, so we're going to unpack a little bit about that. And then you transitioned from the military recently. And so I want to get into a lot of those things, specifically how that transition process went. But I want to understand who you are. I want the people at home to understand who you are. So if you would, take us to, childhood, where you're from and how you grew up.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So grew up in St. Louis, Missouri area. So from there, I moved around quite a little bit. So everywhere, born in St. Louis, out through St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and kind of some of the rural and suburb areas over there.
Okay, nice.
So parents married really young. It was kind of a shotgun wedding for those.
How old were they?
Man, teenagers.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think my mother was 19 or 20, I think, whenever she ended up having me, I think.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes. So my mother had another daughter. I think she's been married... Man, I've lost track after like 5.
Oh, okay.
So she's been married like 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
And then my father, he's got 2 other daughters. One of them actually lives here close by. She was in Colorado and moved here.
Okay.
Went back and helped move her out of Colorado some years back.
Are they older or younger?
No, all those are younger.
Okay, so you were the first.
Yep.
Okay,
yeah,
so shotgun wedding for your parents.
Yep. You're
the first. They're teenagers having their first son.
Yeah.
Okay, and still, so you were born in St. Louis.
Yep. Yeah, born out in St. Louis. So they stayed married for a couple years maybe, and then they ended up divorcing. Didn't work out, and he was kind of out of my life for a while, and came back like pre-teens a little bit, and then kind of gone again, and then came back again. My teenage years, whatever. So
okay, so were they getting any kind of support from their families, or were these 2 teenagers trying to do it on their own?
I really don't know. I mean, it wasn't like we lived in a trailer park, so
okay.
Like it wasn't like people were surviving, so it wasn't like we
Understood.
So there's no really money to give from from their parents or anywhere else. You know what I mean? So, but even with that case, they did. I think their initial house, which wasn't a house, it was a trailer, but it was given to them from her parents, okay. Like her father. I think gave that to her. But at first, whenever they got married, I remember this is like being a toddler. I remember living in like almost like a caravan, like a kind of like you'd see it like a campsite. Like we lived in those for some time.
Okay, so that's your first memories are pretty much living in a caravan, kind of a campsite, and then moving up to a trailer park.
Yeah, then moving up to a trailer park. Yeah.
Understood.
So
I wasn't far from the same. So totally understand.
Yeah.
So you said your father was in and out of your life. So up until those teenage years, when he came back into your life, how was that at home with just you and mom?
Yeah, just me and my mother. But she got married a few times, sure. So it was like back. So it was always like she was not an independent. She was not. Like, she always had some guy around, right? And it was just never working out, always picking the wrong dudes. You know what I mean? And so it was a total shit show.
Absolutely know what you mean.
Yeah, so, a lot of narcotics, alcohol, Shabbat, chaos, like that kind of...
The craziness that comes along with it. So what kind of kid did that make you then? Were you into skateboarding or anything? Like what kind of kid?
So like as a kid, man, I would say all the way through my adolescence, even though all that was going on, like I think I was pretty chill kid. Like I was pretty good. Like I was getting like all the way until adolescence. Like I got straight A's. Like school was not an issue for me. Even in that environment, I was really good there. When I hit adolescence and then I had no like parental supervision, that's when I was like, school's boring. This is dumb. And there was nobody really there to keep me in line with that, to continue on with the academics. Then that way I kind of went downhill.
So was that middle school for you or high school?
I would say the end of middle school between 8th and ninth grade is where that first transformation from me being like really cool,
Good
down
kid.
to earth, good kid to like
Hellion.
Hellraiser, you know?
Okay. So probably about 14 then.
Yeah, I would say about that time, yeah, 13,
And
14 years old.
did anything, so besides your chemical changes that are going on, when you said you had some pretty good parental supervision during that time growing up, so was it pretty much school and home and academics until
So I
you
really
got
didn't have parental supervision. I was just, I just kind of did it on my own, I think, really, mostly. Like, there's nobody checking my homework. There's nobody checking into my stuff.
Okay.
It was just...
It was all on you.
It was all on me at that point.
But at that point, school still meant something to you.
School was like, I think at that point for me, school was like an escape from like living at home. So like that was something that I could put my time and effort into, even as a small kid. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, my house is, home's a chaos, but I had some kind of structure at school and I actually thrived pretty well in that pre-adolescent like time frame.
Okay.
In academics, so.
That makes perfect sense. And it also makes perfect sense why we joined the military and did the things we did later on. But before we get to that, so a lot of us that grow up in those situations, we try to find outlets beyond school. Did you have another safe place to go that you spent a lot of time? A friend's house whose parents had it together?
Not really, man. So, well, I will say all the way up through, like we moved around a lot. So I was bouncing from one school to the next school to the next school. I probably lived in one location. If we were there 2 years, that was a long time. So like every year, 2 years, I was moving to another school. So I was always moving. So it really didn't give me that like kind of like settling down to where you could kind of build those kind of close relationships or whatever.
Right.
So it wasn't until I was probably about 15, 16 years old, I ended up moving out of my parents' house. No, it was before then. Man, I was all over the place. So I lived with my mother. Then I moved to Colorado and lived with my father for a while. And then I left there and then lived with my grandmother for a while. My grandmother couldn't control me. And then I went to live with my grandfather. And I was about 16, 17 years old. And I left there. He was having a hard time with me. We got in an argument and I just left. And that's whenever, and that was the last time I went to school. And that's whenever I moved back to the area that my grandmother was living at, and then I started living with my now wife's family. I was friends with her brother.
Oh.
So they kind of took me in.
And where was that?
That was in Middletown, Missouri. So it was in a rural area.
In Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri, yeah.
Okay, so that was the family you ended up with when you really needed something. So you burned all the other bridges that you had.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So when you say you were a hellion, describe that a little bit. 16 to 18 time. Around that time when you're moving out.
I would say like very, very rebellious, got in a lot of fights, that was just kind of part of the neighborhood and kind of growing up. A lot of fights. I can remember, fighting grown men at like 15, 16 years old.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? Fighting multiple people, a lot of bar fights, even if you're old enough to drink, like, right. You know what I mean? Like, even at that older time frame, little bit into like, moving narcotics, started moving that, petty crimes, then it started graduating to some higher crimes, you just cars, houses, stuff like that. So.
Okay. So no sports growing up?
So when I was younger, I used to play, like, I was actually pretty good at sports, but I didn't have like the finances or like I don't know, man. Once I got pre-adolescence and I started becoming a teenager, like I was too cool for school.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like just rebelled against everything.
It was too late by that point.
It was too late at that point to really get me into the, I would say it was too late, but if there was probably a father figure there that could like probably put me in the right direction, I probably would have been a little bit or a totally different story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that lends a ton of credit to, fatherless homes.
Huge.
You've got to have that in the house. Yeah. So now you're living with your soon to be or to be wife's folks. What's that? And you're not going to school. So what's life looking like now?
So there I was just working like I was working jobs, driving up to St. Louis and working there, or I was working like just from job to job, really, truthfully. And then I was friends with my now wife's brother until me and her started dating. They found out about it and they kicked us out of the house.
That kind of messes things up.
Yeah, so they kind of messed things up. So they ended up kicking us out. They were like, hey, y'all can't stay here. They kicked me out, and then, Chas, my wife, she's like, well, if you're kicking him out, I'm leaving too. So she left. She was leaving. And then we ended up buying a home down there. We were like 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have changed a lot since we were kids, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then since then, we've pretty much been on our own since about 18 years old, yeah.
So you guys probably just celebrated, 20?
Yeah, we just hit 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive,
in
man.
February.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
So at the age of 18, you're running your own home or paying your own rent. You're married. What you said you're working, driving back and forth. What's going on there?
So right then I was working like a 9-to-5 job, but like I was still like, so if you're in like the lifestyle of like on the streets, right? That stuff just doesn't go away. Like you try to get a 9-to-5 job, right, and then your buddy calls you and he's like, hey, listen, man, I got this where you can make some extra money on this or that or whatever. Right. And it's just there tempting all the time, right? So like, so for me, that's what I joined the military. I'm like, I got to get out of here because it's just too tempting. If not, my kids are going to be involved in the same bullshit. So it's like, it's time to go, man. So that's where.
So did you have kids by the time you joined the military?
Yeah, we already had 2 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this went on for a while. You bought your house.
Yeah, we probably lived like that maybe 2 years. Once we got there and I was working, I would say within a year or 2, I was like, hey, I got to join the military. Like, this is not going to work. Like, I'm trying to provide for a family,
right,
and this is not what I want to.
You got to change the environment.
I got to change the environment, and like there's opportunities only. So you look around the neighborhood, everybody's 40, 50, 60 years old, still working at the same jobs. Right. Maybe they're manager, or maybe they're, you know what I mean? And I'm like, so for me, college wasn't in the deck for me, in the cards. Right. So I'm like, I got to figure out something else that I can do to actually get out of this. So like, that's why I was like, all right, military was the way to go. So within 2 years, I joined right when I was 20 years old. I was at 19, I think, when I did the delay entry program.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What did you know about the military? Did you have any family members that served? So,
well, actually, yeah, my grandfather served, both my grandfathers on my mother and my father's side. One served in the Korean War and one served in World War II. My uncle served in the Marine Corps. He was there during Vietnam, but never went over to Vietnam. My aunt was in the Marine Corps. Wow. On my side. So okay. My father served, or he went in, and I think he got discharged for a injury or something when he was in like basic training or AIT or some crap. Wow. And then, so like almost everybody, I had a lot of people serving, you know what I mean? So
okay. So did you have a good idea of what it was going to look like for you?
Not really. I really didn't. I mean, you watch movies and that, but you really don't know what to really kind of expect, I don't think,
So was there anything that spoke to you in any of these movies that just kind of led you one way or another? What did you ask the recruiter when you walked in?
So when I originally went in, man, I didn't know. I went to the recruiter station. I didn't know, like, Army, Marine Corps, Navy. I had no clue. Like, I'm, like, thinking about that, and I'm like, I don't want to be on a boat. So I'm like, Navy was kind of out of the questions for me.
Sure.
Thought about, okay, well, Army or Marine Corps, that was the other ones I was thinking. And I'm like, Air Force really didn't kind of do anything for me at that point. So, like, I'm drawing it down between Army and Marine Corps. I think what chose me to go to the Army is when I went to when I went to the recruiting station, they had, like all the different branches in there. Okay. And when I went in there, Army was the guy that was there. So that's what I'm going, you know what I mean? So that's where I went with.
Right on.
And then, so I went in there and talked to that guy. One of my recruiters was actually a Green Beret. Oh. Right? The other guy, I can't remember what he was. I don't know what MOS he was, right? But I still didn't know anything about the military, right? Like, and then, because they really don't really tell you a whole bunch. The recruiters kind of like don't tell you, hey, go to this MOS or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then that kind of messes up. If you're like, I want to be an aviator and you go there and they don't have it, now you don't go in. They just want you to in the military. So they're not telling you a whole bunch, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's part of the game. So I show up to the MEP station, really didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. So they just like, hey, these are the things that are available.
So did you have any issues being qualified to be in the military? At that time, did you have a GED or a high school diploma?
So when I went to the recruiter, I didn't have nothing. So my recruiter's like, hey, you can't go in there. You only have a high school diploma. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to do? They're like, well, hey, you need to do a GED. And he's like, these are the books you need to do. And then they showed me where I need to go to set the test up or whatever.
Okay.
So I went and bought the books, started studying it, and then went and took the GED and the ASVAB.
So you self-taught yourself?
Self-taught myself again through the books that they gave me.
Nice.
Further to do both of those.
So you had to do that as a prereq before you could even sign up for the military?
Yeah, before I could even sign up. So they squared me away with that. Did that. That was actually pretty easy. And then when I went to the MEP station, like I said, like they didn't have any, like I had no clue. So first they offered me a commo guy, and I'm like, I'm not doing commo. Like, because I'm thinking about war movies. Like, those are the guys that first get smoked. Is the commo guy.
Big antennas.
Big antennas up there. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit, right?
Right.
So then they offered me underwater welding. And I was like, well, I'm not going to see any combat or do anything. Because that's what I'm, like, only thinking about, right? Or I'm not going to get any kind of, like, time on the trigger as an underwater welder.
Right. And
so I passed that up.
Boats probably come into play a lot with that.
Yeah. And then, which would have been fine, but I was like, nope. And the recruiter's like, what are you talking about? You're an idiot. Like, those people make, like, at that point, they were making like six figures. And make six figures 25 years ago was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
But come to find out, their life expectancy is pretty low also.
I've heard that as well.
So I'm like, then they said infantry. And I was like, man, the only time that you're going to go to combat, like what I've heard about infantry is, like, you clean your weapon, you go to the motor pool, like like there's nothing, you know what I mean? And this was before September 11th.
Okay.
So I'm like, no. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know why, but like as I'm sitting there, I'm like, what about MP? Can I do MP? And they're like, no, it's not available. And I go, okay, well, I'm good. And I got up and I left the MEP station.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got up and I started walking away, and then they stopped me and they're like, hey, your recruiter wants to talk to you, right? So they stopped me, your recruiter wants to talk to me, and they're like, hey, listen, if you join, if they can get you this is before I left it on, this was in St. Louis. They go, if you sign up today, if we can get you MP, will you take it? And I go, yeah, I'll take it. So they went over there, I sat there, they made some phone calls, and they're like, all right, we'll make it. The whole totally different conversation when I went back to the recruiter.
They're used car salesmen, man.
Yeah, they went wholly different. I mean, he was like, the guy was like cool at first, and then once I told him I didn't want that I wanted something else, like he was pissed. So, but I ended up getting that and then left, man.
Okay, so you started off as an MP. How many? Where did you get stationed? In how many years?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's like right outside of Missouri.
Yeah,
it's right in Missouri. It's like nowhere. I think St. Roberts, I think, is the name of the town there. Yeah, there's like nothing there. I don't even remember if there's I think there's a Walmart there, maybe.
Okay, how many years were you there?
I was there until I went to selection. So I signed into my unit September 11th of 2000. So 1 year before the towers hit.
Wow.
The towers hit, and then we went to Qatar. I went to Qatar, and I spent like 10 months there. Almost a year there in Qatar.
Was that base security?
Yeah, like
MPs?
base security, man.
Okay.
Yeah, just base security. Did that for a year, and then when we went into Iraq, right? Because we went to Afghanistan first, and then we went into Iraq.
Right.
And then when we went into Iraq, so I was already in Qatar when we went into Iraq, and then I went from Qatar to Iraq, like right after the invasion, like, so we're right behind the forward line of troops.
Oh,
right.
Damn.
So, but I didn't see any action. We were behind the forward line of troops, right. So it was like, you know what I mean. And we were there maybe not a real long time.
How long were you in Qatar before they just you weren't expecting to go from?
I was
Qatar
expecting to go to Qatar
yeah.
to Iraq. They needed an extra like an MP team. They needed like a squad there.
I see.
Right, and then So I went over there, and I was there, I don't remember how long, maybe a couple months. I could be wrong on that one. It wasn't a whole long time. So we did that, and then from there, that's when I was assigned to a SF. There was an SFODA there, and that's the really time I seen the SF guys, and I was like, bro, these dudes were like running and gunning, beards, and man jams, and like getting after it. And I'm like, bro, that's what I want to do.
What group was it?
I don't know, because I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't asking groups. I didn't know nothing. You know what I mean? And like, I never really talked to those dudes. I just seen them. You know what I mean? So I didn't really even talk to the guys. So, but I'm like, I did not want to continue on where I was at. So I came back from there and went to selection. And I went to selection in October of 2004. I want to say it was October of 2004. So right when I came back from there, I went to a SF recruiter. Got another book again that tells you exactly what I need to do to pass selection. You know what I mean? That was like, well, the PT portion, right? Hey, this is the PT standards you need to do. And then just started executing those and then went to selection.
So you had all the other prerequisites, 110 GT score.
Yep.
So this is funny to me, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't graduate high school.
No.
You self-taught yourself the ASVAB so you can test high enough to join the military. And not only did you test high enough to be able to join the military, or I'm sorry, you got your GED first.
Yep.
Passed the ASVAB, scored high enough to do any job in the military. So it's a 110.
Yep.
Most people don't get anywhere close to that. I mean, that's absurd to me that you dropped out of high school at 16.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. So, okay, so any issues with the PT, anything like that? You were you were a stud at that point.
Yeah. No issues with the PT. I had no issue with the PT because like I took that book there and I was just like, okay, hey, what do I need to get off of that? You know what I mean? And I'm like, just took the they give you, what was it, SFAS preparation handbook?
I never got one. I've heard of them. That just kind of walks you through, hey, on day one, ruck, 3 miles.
3 miles. And then day 2, you should be doing these push-ups or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
And it's probably like an 8-week train up or 12-week train up?
8 to 16-week train up or whatever it was. I can't remember. So I just followed that plan and then...
Followed the plan?
Just followed the plan and then executed it off there. So I didn't have any problem with that. I was a PT stud at before I even kind of really started there at my unit. So I was on the rucks. I was within the top... Well, you know how you set at different groups, so I don't know,
sure.
Right? Because you really don't know kind of where you land. I was probably I was on the long range movement, I was the third, like, set of people to go. Right? And I finished third out of all overall.
Oh, wow.
Third to finish doesn't mean I was third out of everybody to finish.
And they probably did like 15-minute
they did 15 intervals. So those 2 guys that were ahead of me could have been in the 5th pack. I don't know whether they, you know what I mean?
You don't know where they came from.
Or they could have been in front of me, so I don't know. But I know, like, there was only 2 people when I finished there. The runs, I was about in the middle of the pack on the runs.
Okay. And any issues with ropes? Any of the yoke course, any of that stuff?
No, I did all of those on first time goes on all of those.
Where was your land nav when you started selection?
Land nav, I blade ran on land nav.
Let's talk about that for a second because it scares the shit out of people, and it should. You should, you should give some thought to it. But
so on land nav, when I originally did the land nav, when we did they had the star preparation. What was that? I can't think of the name. Like, you do the star course, but they give you a couple ones where they do a practice.
Right. So you did the instructor led.
The instructor led. Yep.
Yes.
The instructor led, and they let you, hey, figure out what your pace count is and all that stuff there. Right. And then you do it on your own, and depending on how well you do on your own, some smaller courses, right? Yep. Then they pair you up with someone else, right? They pair somebody strong up with somebody weak.
Okay.
Right. And then, so I was crushing it all the way up to there. So I was one of the strong ones, so they paired somebody up that sucked with me, right? And crushed that portion. As soon as the star course started, it was day 1, and they gave my second point. My second point was like right in between the draw.
Okay.
Crushed the first point, second point. I spent all night looking for the second point. Never found it, right? So I don't know if it was a second or third point, but I'd never found that point. And I'm like, holy shit. So when you originally, during that time I went in, you either had to get, if you got 5 on the first day, then you didn't have to do the next 2 days. You were good.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you got all, was it 5 points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. Was it 6 points?
So when I went
5
through,
points.
We had 4 because you had to get at least 1 4 for 4.
Yep.
When I went through, and you had 4 days of land nav, but you had to get a total of 11 points in 4 days. So you had to get at least 1 4 for 4.
What year did you go?
03.
03. Okay. So I went in 2004, October 2004, and I want to say it was 5 points.
Okay.
You had 15 points total. There was 3 days. If you got 5 for 5 on the first day, then you didn't have to go forward.
Because
I want to say that star was like, because you start here. That's why they call it the star course.
Yeah.
So I boloed it. But if you didn't get that, then you had to get a total of like 12 or something. I can't remember.
Okay. For us, it was 11. Like
Yeah, it was 11 or 12. I don't know. I could be off on this one because it's been so long ago. I can't remember. All I know is whatever it was, I had to get 5 for 5 on the second day and 5 for 5 on the third day, or I was a no-go. So whatever that number was. So the second day I came out, crushed the second day, got 5 for 5. Then the third day I come out, I did 4 points, and then 3 of them were long range movements, right? Yep. So 2 of them are usually short range, right? So I had 60 minutes left for my last point. So I'm like, oh, this has got to be a short range movement. So I get my point or whatever. I'm like plotting it, and I'm like, what the hell? It was all the way on the other side of Camp McCall, right? And I go, this can't be right. So I replotted again, right? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, no, this is right.
Like 13 clicks.
You know what I mean? It was like right at 12 clicks.
Yeah.
And it was down by Power Range Road, right? So at least it was somewhere to where you had some reference.
Yeah, you had a nice backstop.
I had a nice backstop on it, right? So what I did is I didn't even at that point, I knew where Power Range Road was, and I knew the general direction. Yeah. I got up, poured out all my water, and ran 12 clicks as fast as I possibly could, right?
Yes, sir.
Luckily, there was no crazy draws in the way, because that would have crushed me, right? And then moving through Camp McCall for 12 clicks with that kind of ruck, I don't know how. So I got over to where approximately where my point was. I got to my backstop, and then I did intersection resection, right? And I go to this corner, to this intersection. I go, okay, this is the intersection I think is on the map. I go over there, confirm in my mind that that's what it is, right? From what I was taught. And then now I go and do a recon, right? So at first I go out and I start clover leafing around where my point's supposed to be. It's not there, right? I go back to the intersection, right? Re-verify, then go back at another attack point, right? Man, we're down to minutes now.
Your heart's
we're down to minutes.
Pounded.
Yeah. So I'm pounding. I'm like, this is bullshit. And I'm like, I go out there. I do again, do another recon, and still not finding it. Now, I'm getting down to
panic mode.
Minutes, right? And I'm so I'm panic mode, but I'm exhausted. I'm dehydrated. My mouth is dry. I'm bending over. I'm like, bro, this is not my ruck's on. And I'm starting to feel sorry for myself at this point, And I hear something in the background, and it was the tailgate closing to the point. I look over, and my point's right over there. And I didn't see it until, I don't know, for whatever reason, I missed it. Yeah. And then I started running to the point, hand them my card, and then they're like, bro, you just barely made it. Signed off on it, got in the back of the truck, and then I was good to go.
Dude, that's incredible, man. And for the people at home that haven't been through it, we start the star course at 3 a.m. Yeah. So by the time you're getting to that last point, luckily it's daylight. So yeah, I mean that's the only way you can run that far, through the woods, man. But that's crazy. I have similar story, but for another time, man. Okay, so selection went well. Did you get anything wish list wise? What'd you ask for? Group, language, any of that?
So when I originally went, war was already going on. 7th group really wasn't in it yet. So I want to say 7th group was my third option. I want to say 5th was in the fight. 5th and 3rd was in the fight. So I think I went 5th, 3rd, 7th was my request, my wish list or whatever. And I ended up getting 7th group, right? I remember being pissed that I got 7th group, and then, but I got the group, and I was running. I know guys who were in 5th group that went to CAG because they never went because I was like running a gun, and I already had 2 or 3 deployments out, and these dudes weren't getting nothing, you know? So, so it worked out for me, the fact that that's what I wanted. Like, that was the whole point I picked those other ones, because I thought 7th group at that point really wasn't in the fight yet.
Right.
Right. But
because their South America was always busy for them. Same thing with 1st group, right?
2006, I want to say it started picking up for 7th group, started going, I think, with 2006 time frame. You know, and then from there, they never left, man. They were in the rotation the whole time.
What year did they move from Bragg to Florida?
They moved to Bragg to Florida in 2000 and, I could be wrong on this, 2010, I think.
So you were already in 7th group when they moved?
Yeah, I was already in 7th group. I got 7th group 2000. It was either the end of 2006, beginning of 2007, I want to say. I'd have to look at my DD214 or whatever to figure out exactly, but it was around that time frame.
So through the Q course, so what MOS did you get? Did you get to
18 Bravo?
Is that what you picked?
Yeah, I think that was what I picked.
So coming from an MP now, I just want a weapons guy, go to combat.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your focus. Any problems with the Q course at all?
No, Q course, everything through there went pretty smooth, man. Selection, like I said, selection on the land nav, blade running through that. But I was at the weapons committee. Or was at 18 Bravo. I was a student there. That was no issues there. No issues in SUT.
Was it fun or did it suck?
I mean, I didn't feel like it sucked. Like, in my mind, I always had, like, before I went, I had this, like, it was just going to be the worst thing ever. So whenever I went and it didn't meet those expectations, I was kind of like, now don't get me wrong, there's days on things that sucked, and you're like, man, this would be so much easier to quit. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Even at the 18 Bravo committee, we had some days they smoked the dog shit out of you. I mean, smoked you. Like, I'd been smoked at that point in the 18 Bravo committee probably more than I had been in selection or even through anywhere else, right?
What does that mean to the viewers that aren't military? What is a good...
I mean, just doing PT till you throw up, doing PT till you want to, like, quit, like you have nothing left to give, you know? That breaking point to where, you know, I remember the initial day when I was a student, I went to the 18 Bravo committee, and they were like, we already went through selection, right? So you're thinking you're kind of, you know,
you're
good.
A cool guy now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And they're like, we're not leaving here. They took us over to the 3rd group compound, and they're like, they put us on gravel rocks, and they're doing grass drills on gravel. We're doing grass drills on gravel rocks. That's like bear crawl, mountain climbers, roll left, roll right, like skinned up, like, and they're like, we're not leaving here till one of y'all quit. And we're like, they're joking. They weren't joking.
They make movies about stuff like that, right? And
I'm like, yeah, they're bullshit, and they're joking. They're not going to do that. Nope, they weren't joking.
Wow.
So
those hard days, what kept you going?
I mean, I think it's probably like most people. It's like, I think for me, it's just like, I think the trials and tribulations that I had as a younger kid prepared me a lot better than a lot of people that haven't had those. Yeah. Right. So I remember going through basic training and some of these things, even through SEER school, where people are breaking down. Yeah. I'm like, bro, if this is the hardest your life's been ever, you know what I mean? So, like, I think that's what people, to be able to go through trials and tribulations and hard things in your life prepares you whenever you have to go through hard things in your life, right? So you're a lot more resilient than other people. So for me, I looked at it as like, well, they can't kill me. So I just suck this up and just get through the day, you know, then do the same thing over again, you know? So,
That's right.
You know, and it's just not, if you put things, if you don't have quit in you, like at the end of the day, if you're a POW, do you get an opportunity to quit?
No, absolutely not.
So if you go to these selections and these courses and everything else there and have that mindset of like, I'm not quitting. You can kick me out, but I'm not quitting. Yep. It's not even an option for me. You just throw that away. Then wherever wherever the sticks lay, they lay, you know, but.
So it's a mindset thing, 100%?
100% mindset thing.
Like
100% mindset thing.
Okay, so you're getting to group around '06. You're getting to seventh group. What's your first taste of group? Did you have to go to any support element, or did you go straight to a team?
Oh yeah, so I got the group early. You know, when they have the, you know, you get your permissive TDY, and you leave from group, whatever. So we were already on brag. So I think you get like 30 or 45 days.
Right.
Like, I didn't take any leave. So I graduated. I got my Green Beret, and then I went straight over from there and went straight to group because I was trying to be able to pick my battalion, because I heard if you go over there ahead of time that you could be able to, if the sergeant major doesn't have you slotted, then you try to get on a deployment, right?
Right.
So I went over there, and luckily didn't have me slotted. Nobody was tracking I was coming that soon, and they're like, "Where do you want to go?"
What rank were you?
I was an E6 at that time.
Okay.
Yep, as E6. And like, well, where do you want to go? And I had no clue about battalions or anything. I was trying to get detail on it, but I didn't know anybody from the other classes, so I had no nothing. So I had no like info on it. And I go, well, who's deploying? And they're like, 1st Battalion's deploying. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to 1st Battalion. Well, 1st Battalion was deploying in like 45 days from when I got there.
Okay.
So it didn't put me in my mind to where these guys have already got their ODA set up. So I get over there, and they're like, all these ODAs are full, man. Like,
and they've done PMT cycles.
Well, they haven't done PMT yet.
Okay.
They're getting ready to do PMT. So I get there, I get to the B team. So I'm on the B team, and I go to PMT with the B team right before they go to Afghanistan. And I'm like, oh man. At the end of the day, like, I didn't know. At least I was going down range.
Yeah.
You know, but you're on the B team and you're seeing the guys on the teams, and you're kind of like, man, that's where I want to be.
You start to learn pretty quick that it's much better to be on a team.
Yeah, you're a little better to be on a team. So, but PMT gets over with, and one of the ODAs, one of the guys, like, I'm not re-enlisting. I can't remember exactly what happened with his situation, but he came off the team, and he was in 18 Bravo. So, open the door, 726. So,
happy accident.
Yeah. Right. So,
how much time did you get to spend with the team in training, in any of that train up?
Not much, because PMT was already done and over with.
Yeah.
So, and that was a team to where they were like senior dudes, and it was a dog-eat-dog team. Like, either you performed or you were gone.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, so that was a hard-hitting team. So,
did you have a senior Bravo then?
Nope.
No, so
I came in the senior Bravo pretty much.
You're the senior
There's another
Bravo.
guy there, but he got out of the Q course, I want to say maybe a little bit before me or on the same time. And then there for a while, it was kind of like they really didn't put, like, who was a senior, who was a junior. And then eventually I just took over that role as the senior Bravo.
Okay.
So right as we kind of got there.
Man, when you were an MP, did you get any schools, or were you just an
So
Airborne?
I was an MP. I went to law enforcement, like a law enforcement sniper course.
Okay.
So that was pretty much it.
So you had some trigger time on a long gun,
Yep,
at least?
I had some trigger time.
Okay.
So,
but other than that, Airborne school and the Q
Airborne
course.
school and the Q course. But, like, I was a pretty fast learner. I went through SUT, and my instructors thought I was infantry. They had no clue that I was a soft skill MOS.
That's impressive.
Because I just taught myself. And then it's like, I taught myself, and then if you can kind of take what other people are doing, apply it to yourself, and then be like, okay, these are the fundamentals. This is what you need to do. Read the Ranger Handbook. Read these, you know what I mean? Like, all the military manuals and that. And that's what I did. So then when I got there, I was pretty spot on, man.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so first deployment, where are you going?
Afghanistan.
Okay.
So,
how was that trip?
So that trip, we originally went to, I think we initially went to Mahalik. And we was at Mahalik maybe a week or two right then. And then we went into Fob Rob.
Okay.
So went to the Helmand province and then did a whole clearing operation all the way through the Helmand. So I want to say the 82nd was with us when we did that clearing operation. It was a full-scale, like, invasion, tanks, clearing operation all through the Helmand province, Sangin.
And just months of that?
Oh, yeah, we stayed there for 10 months. Like, I never went back to Mahalik.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Oh, that was. So I remember when we initially got there, that trip, like we were ready to get after it, and then we were clearing through the Helmand province, and there was an ODA that went. I told this story before, but there was an ODA that was probing the forward line of troops, and they went like comms black, but they were like troops in contact. And then I was like, man, I wanted to get up there and kind of get after it. Like, so you're kind of like, itching for it, And they had a Spig 9 go through a mud hut and went straight into their GMV. And then from there, it was like pretty much game on for us. So they called us up. They come back on hire. Hey, listen, we're troops in contact. We got a vehicle down. And I think it was minor casualties, nothing crazy. And then and our ODA went up there to support them. And then from that day forward, it was like troops in contact every day. We would go out for between 3 to 7 days, being troops in contact every day, from like sun up to sundown, go back and resupply, and go back out and do it again. Did that for 10 months.
Jeez, that's an extremely high mission op tempo.
Yeah. So that, I want to say, I can't remember if that trip or this trip over from there. I remember you saying you had Docky over there. I think he was at Price. They were at Price across the river at the Helmand province.
The name sounds familiar, Price.
Yeah. So Price was right across the Helmand River, almost catty corner from where Fob Rob was.
Did they have a small airfield there?
I don't know. I remember going over there at one point for some operation that we did. I think whenever we went up to Moussa Calais to do an operation up there, we did a few operations over there. I think we went from Price. So
during that first trip, for your team specifically, did you take any casualties, any friendly casualties?
So we got very, very, very lucky on that first trip to Fob Rob. Like we were very aggressive. We learned that very quick. We used violence of action to our advantage.
Right.
And our ODA didn't take any casualties that trip. Our sister ODA that was there at Fob Rob took some casualties, and then our other sister ODAs at that time across at Forward Price took casualties, and then there was ODAs that came to Fob Rob to do operations. They took casualties. So everybody around us took casualties, but we didn't take any that trip. We took some the second trip.
Okay. So wrapping up that trip and getting back, it's probably 2007 time frame?
So that trip was 2000. We left in 2007. It was 2007 to 2008 as we was in Fob Rob 4.
Okay. And so what's your redeployment look like? Or do you stay with that same ODA?
Yeah, I stayed with that ODA. We redeployed, or I came back, went to Sodic, was back for a little bit, and then redeployed back to Fob Rob again for another 10 months.
How long was that
to 09? Maybe 6 months.
Sodic's, 2.5 months?
Maybe 2.5 months, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Then PMT, then back again.
So came back, refit, take leave, go to school.
Yeah.
Get ready to go back. Okay. And right back, same place you're
right back to Fob Rob.
Okay. 08, 09.
08, 09, yep.
How was that trip?
So that trip was just like the other one. Most of the, even if you go back to the same place, it's going to change a little bit. But it was still the same thing, still running the gun in, going out, 3 7-day operations, troops in contact the whole time. So
what stands out on that trip?
So the second trip, I'm trying to figure out, because some of these things like mix together, man.
Sure.
So the first trip we had a very close near ambush. We also had a CSAR.
What's CSAR? Combat Search and Rescue.
Yeah,
is that CSAR?
yeah.
Okay.
So we had a helo shot down about 100 meters from our location. Right. So we did the recovery of all the personnel, recovered all the bodies off of that crash. That was the first trip. The second trip, our team sergeant got killed. We were heavy troops in contact the second time, and our team sergeant got killed. So on the second trip, that was the biggest one there. But on the first trip, our sister ODA that was out with Tim Padgett was killed, and Mitch Young was killed in the second one.
How are you doing at this point?
So, man, that first trip, I will say, was pretty. was like pretty rough. That first trip was rough. And then like leaving that trip and then coming back and like knowing you're going back again, like kind of changed my whole mentality of like what SF was. You know, I know not everybody has the same experiences, but like we were in kinetic operations every time we left the wire. Yeah. Right. And then we left the wire for 3 to 7 days. And kinetic operations at that point that has been to the Helmand province and has been to like that area, Sangin and Musa Calais and Hyderabad, all those places. It is Pute is PKMs. You're getting engaged with PKMs, AK-47s, Spig 9s, Carl G's, or not Carl G's, but their Spig 9s is like our Carl G, you know. And then RPGs, like that's a daily occurrence. That's like every day. Spig 9s I wouldn't say all the time, but RPGs, PKMs, AK-47s were pretty much daily. So,
how close are they when they're engaging you guys? Those PKMs are they a click away engagements?
So that's one thing I tell about combat. It's really hard to tell at times. So what we did a very good job is when we would come up to compounds, we would make sure that we were outside of the weapon system's most effective range, right. And our weapon systems had a longer effective range. Okay. So, like, we weren't intentionally going to an area and putting ourselves in with the effective range of a PKM, right? So I'm going back out, 1,300 meters. So I'm going to go back a little bit further, right? So whenever an RPG, now there were times where we were closer than what we should be because the mission required that. Right. So you have RPGs blowing up, hitting gun trucks, PKMs going off of, hitting off of the gun, hitting the gun trucks and that, or, skidding out beside you or whatever. But for the most time, we tried to stay outside of their max effective range.
How prevalent are the IEDs at this time?
They're pretty, when we initially got there, they weren't that prevalent then at that point because of, there hadn't been nobody out doing operations. Okay. Right?
So you're the first ones they're seeing.
We're the first ones that we're seeing for at least that I know of, because before we got there, the British weren't out there doing operations. Okay. So they were kind of stuck there, and that's the reason why we were supposed to go there to help them, right? So I don't remember ODAs really getting out and doing any. There was no ODAs before that, unless maybe back in the early days, maybe, when guys were still running around in Hiluxes and man jams, But there's not a really big IED threat. But once we got there and we started moving around, then the IED threat came like quick, right. Like within weeks. Now they're getting IEDs in and now they're planting IEDs, right? We were able to originally go down 611, right? And then we realized like guys were getting blown up. We're like, we can't do that anymore. So then we had to start going off the pot, go off the road, go off road, right? And then the off road, like check, or, anytime you get into like a where they kind of narrowed you down into like a fatal funnel where you couldn't go around, right? Then we try to avoid that. We drive through poppy fields because they weren't IED in poppy fields, right? Because they were growing their poppy and shit in there. So,
right. At least at that time, they were.
At that time, right?
Yeah.
Then originally, we were taking up the high ground for a while, right? Because they weren't IED'd.
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, all these guys are taking up high ground. So then now the Taliban is going out and IEDing all the high ground.
It was a chess match.
Yeah, it's a chess match. It's a cat and mouse kind of move. Or you got to always be thinking and be 1 or 2 steps ahead of your enemy at all times. So.
Definitely a chess match.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
So between trip 1 and trip 2, how were you a different person between those? I know you said your perspective had changed on the mission set.
Yeah, my perspective changed because like I ended up like really changing. Like before I left on a deployment, like I started taking the wife and kids on a vacation. Like we'd go somewhere. And we always take photos. Like that first trip set the tone to where like it doesn't matter where I went. We went on a vacation. We took photos because I was like, I don't know how this trip's going to go, right? So I never assumed that it was going to be anything different from my first trip as SF, Right. So that kind of changed that. I really didn't talk about it a whole lot. My wife said she really didn't notice too much of a change. But I think once you get into when you start learning how to compartmentalize your emotions and kind of how you're feeling or whatever, you get very good at not showing any of that, right? You can get very stoic, very good, very easily. And there's nothing wrong with stoicism, but I think people get a false pretense of stoicism. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have emotions. It's just you're controlling them, right? But we have this thought process that like, okay, I'm going to be very stoic. I'm going to be very cold, and I'm not going to show my emotions, right? You know what I mean? Or I'm not going to like, so that's where we have a lot of these problems later on, you know, in life and career, because we just bottle all that shit up and we don't have a release for it and we don't know how to deal with it. So,
right. Was your team tight?
So my team was tight, like combat. Like we still have team group chats, right? So like we're still on team group chats and all.
Would you guys talk to each other about any of this stuff?
No.
When teams starting past, how?
No, we don't. So I mean, that was, you got to figure this is an old.
Yeah.
You know, most of these guys are all Generation X.
Yeah.
You know, guys like, I think everybody back at that point was all Generation X. Like, there's no millennials weren't a thing yet, or like, well, I don't know when millennials start time frame, but most of the generation.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's like cusp or whatever. But most of these guys are pretty. Like older dudes, and then
so they most of these dudes probably grew up with dads
old
similar
school.
to our dads.
Yeah,
right?
old school guys, and it's like you don't talk about feelings. What's the point of it?
Right.
Like, what are you going to solve? You know what I mean? So you're not really talking about that shit, you know.
So with that, I've said this before, but in the team room, we somewhat gauge our mental health off of each other.
Yeah.
So if we were together on all these ops, and you're okay, and he's okay, then I must be okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was like there's still a war going on. So, like, that's the problem. Like, nobody teaches you how to unpack that shit and then still be able to be combat effective.
Right.
Right. So, like, you're going from deployment to deployment to deployment. Like, you ain't got time to sit there and start worrying about, like, oh, I got this childhood trauma that I'm dealing with that's affecting the way I deal with it. You know what I mean? And nobody teaches you how to do it, so you have no clue what you're supposed to do or how that looks. So... You know what I mean? And like, then they wonder like why people have these problems. Well, you got a war going on. Like, that has to be dealt with before that, right? And unless they do some research on how to unpack that as they go. But like, at the end of the day, if you're doing your job and you are a savage and you're getting after it, combat focused, do I really want to send you to the third floor or somewhere else and be like, hey, let's talk about your feelings right before you're getting ready to go again?
Right.
What if that breaks you? What if you can't handle that? And now you're not combat effective. You get somebody killed. You start thinking about your wife and your kids and all that other shit, man.
You hear about it all the time with professional athletes, with fighters. They try to keep them focused on just the mission, right?
Yep.
Just the fight, the task at hand, and clear out all the social media and all the all the noise out of there, so you can stay focused. And you're absolutely right.
The anything on that is this, okay. For one, people don't do maintenance, nor they worry about something. They teach somebody about something after they already need to know about it.
Understood.
Why would I not figure this stuff out before I even went to combat?
Right.
Right. Hey, these are the things you deal with. These are like right now, like there's not a war going on, so nobody's concerned about it. But you know, the answer to me would be, maybe it's already been done, is to study guys that's already been to combat for a long period of time. And I'm talking about guys that went to sit on a fob. I'm talking about guys that are actually in kinetic operations or whatever, that's dealt with this or whatever, or has trauma and that's kind of trying to figure that stuff out, right? Study those guys, figure out what it looks like, whether that's Vietnam veterans. We don't have too many World War II veterans left anymore. But talk to these guys that's been in some pretty bad kinetic operations and do a study on it and figure out what you need. And then you teach the guys now that are already active duty that haven't been to war yet. So when they have that, if that does come, it's like you don't teach somebody to go to SEER school after they've already been a POW. You go to SEER school first and be like, hey, so this is a good SEER school. If you do get caught, this is going to be a POW. These are the things that are going to happen to you.
That's right.
This is how you handle it.
Exactly. Okay.
You can do the same thing with combat. You know what I mean? Like, your brain's the same way, right? Your mindset, how you think, how you deal with emotions, all that stuff. But nobody's either, maybe they thought about it but don't know how to apply it, or if you did apply it, would the guys listen anyways? Like, those are questions you got to figure out and ask. But we teach guys all kinds of other stuff. You can still teach them that too.
I agree. And I think the plane's probably being built in flight based off of based off of history, right? It took a long time before guys started talking about it and saying, hey, you know what? I do have an issue. I could use some help with this.
And let's not kid ourselves. Wars need to be won.
Yes.
So let's not kid ourselves there. Wars need to be won. And if it's working, the military isn't going to be like, oh, let's come up with this new program to figure out how we can deal with somebody's feelings after they've been in combat, or how they deal with that.
Well, I know there's procedures that they're trying, right, with stellium ganglion nerves and
that's
things
after.
like that. That's after, right?
That's aftercare.
But if you're implementing it earlier in the phase, right? So imagine you got treatment when you came back from that first deployment. Imagine your R3 process was getting a stellium ganglion nerve reset, dealing with some of that stuff that you just learned for the first time in combat before you go back. Because a lot of the dudes, right? They don't even. I remember doing our cognitive testing to get our baseline when I had like 17 years in the military, and they're getting a baseline to figure out. Yeah, and it's like, okay, so I got it. We're building it in flight, so it's catching up. But I think being able to do some of those therapies, some of those treatments as your R3, and I got our R3s are already busy, but I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, of course, I think it would too. But like you said, it's kind of, we're building it as we go, and then just hopefully they still keep building on it and do maintenance, really.
Yeah. No, I agree. So just getting back to your career.
Yeah.
Right? So after that second trip, you return home. Do you stay on the same ODA? And you're probably an E7 by now?
Yep. Made an E7 that, I think during that second trip I got promoted.
Okay. So you're still on the same team
still
now.
On the same
now
team,
you were the senior Bravo, or have you changed jobs at all?
No, I've been a senior Bravo the whole time. So at that point, the BRAC move's getting ready to happen, and my wife was a nurse at Womack. So I volunteered to stay. I volunteered to go to SWIC.
Okay.
Right? Because the SWIC levy was coming up. Everybody else was moving to go to down here to Florida. But my wife was a GS like 12 or something like that. And like we were already kind of set in, and we're like, now we'll just stay here at Bragg, So I went and did that.
So you volunteered to go to SWIC?
Yeah, I volunteered to go to SWIC.
Okay, before the break, we were talking about 7th Group is moving to Florida from Fort Bragg. You volunteered to stay back and teach at the Special Warfare Training Course or Training Center.
Yep.
Is that what SWIC stands for?
Yep.
Is that
yeah,
right?
I think so at that point.
So you're going to go be an instructor for the next 2 to 3 years and teach new students student Green Berets.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to do that, and then they assigned, I can't remember what battalion they assigned me to, but it was under like the MOSs. And I went to talk to the battalion CSM, and he's like, hey, you're responsible for, or we're responsible for Camp McCall, this and wherever. And he's like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, man, this is a trick question. Like, battalion CSM is not just, And so I told him, I said, well, CSM, I'll go wherever you need me, wherever the needs are.
That's the right answer.
But if you're asking me where I personally would like to do and where I think I would perform at the highest level, would be at the weapons committee.
Okay.
I enjoy tactics. I enjoy firearms. Like I learned about them as young. I kind of talked to him a little bit about that, and he's like, "Good answer." And he's like, "All right, I got a spot." He's like, "Luckily, you got here before the other guy had squared away to go." Because I did the same thing again. I just went there early.
Nice.
And then he's like, so that guy's not going now. I'm taking him off the weapons committee. He's going to Camp McCall at SUT. So.
Oh, well.
So,
I mean, I guess
not nice for whoever that guy was. So in 2010, if you were supposed to go to the weapons committee and you went to SUT, sorry, bud. So.
Okay.
So I ended up going to the weapons committee. So
it pays to be a winner.
Yeah.
Once again.
Pays to show up first, pays to be a winner. So.
Okay, so at the weapons committee, what's your position? Are you a senior instructor rider? Is that?
Yep. So when I initially got there, I went to the tactics, right? And you get there, you kind of have to shadow a class first, okay. And then I was in tactics as one of the instructors, and the guy that was there running the tactics left. I would say maybe 6 months or so after I was there, 6 months to a year, maybe. I can't remember how long he was there for. And then once he left, I took over his position as the senior instructor for the tactics, the FTX.
Okay, and you did that for the full. Was it 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you like about that job?
Oh man, I love being an instructor out there as a tactics. So because like you can kind of see for a while, like guys would do their operation order. Like I taught them MDMP, taught them op orders, and as they were given the plan, like you could start seeing exactly where they're going to mess up. So like what I used to do with the students is I would say, I go, hey, give me a piece of paper. So I give a piece of paper, they give me a piece of paper, and when they did their op order, I'd write down everything that was going to happen.
Okay.
Right? And then I'd put it in an envelope, I would seal it, and then I'd have them initial it, right? I'd initial it, and then I'd have them hold, or I think I'd hold on to it. I can't remember if I hold on to it or I let them.
Right.
And then after we did our AAR, I'd be like, hey, pull out the letter. And they pull out the letter, and they'd be like, how did you know? And I'm like, because what y'all planned or what y'all briefed, I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I didn't change like the outcome. Like I didn't have I let whatever happen from the guys that are on the ground that play .4. You know, the only thing every time these guys had been there for years, so they knew their left and right limits. So when we got there and we had a scenario, like I'm like, hey, this is your left and right limits. You know, if they do this, then you have to stop. Right? Like at the end of the day, I didn't play that. You know, if a guy's pointing a gun at you, you're not going to keep pushing forward, right? You know what I mean? Like, so in real life, somebody points a gun at you, you may be a little bit belligerent, but once he shows that he's not messing around, you're going to stop everything you're doing, you know? So yeah. So
you would just let Murphy show up into the plan because he always does.
He not only always shows up, but like they don't. A lot of the times is when people plan, they don't necessarily see most of the answers are already there for them in the op order.
Okay. Right?
And then you start to kind of see that, you know. For instance, I don't know how many military personnel you have here, but the guy would give me, you know, they'd give questions, right? They're like, hey, listen, we need these RFIs, requests for information. And they go, how long, you know, will it take for the op for the enemy to get to our location? And I go, it's in the op order. And they're like, no, it doesn't show that in the op order. I go, how far away is the nearest enemy location? It's 15 clicks. Okay, how many vehicles do they have? They have this many vehicles. How long do you think it's going to take for them? As soon as they get identified, there's contact, they get in their vehicles and they drive 15 clicks to you. How long is that going to take? Less than 30 minutes. Okay, then you got 30 minutes. Your QRF should be there before 30 minutes.
Right.
Or
they're answering their own questions.
The answer's already there. You're answering your own questions, right? But they don't look forward to that, right?
Sure.
And they go, then you'd see, you know, on the map, they would do their plan, and they would come up with their courses of action, and I go, where's the enemy going to come from? And they're like, well, I don't know. I go, are they going to come from that draw? They're like, no, probably not. I said, when the enemy leaves the objective, once you get there, where are they going to go? The terrain tells you exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But you have to look out there. You got to do mission analysis. You know what I mean? You got to really think and get strategic on what you're doing. But so like I was very, very big on that as an 18 Bravo because you have to know your weapon systems. You have to know what people are going to do. You got to understand the human domain. You got to understand how people are moving around on the ground, why they're moving around on the ground. You know, so I was like really, really big on that kind of stuff. So
what are you looking for in a student as an instructor? What is your ideal, like that dude squared the fuck away compared to these are my problem children over here? And what do those guys look like?
So the guys, this is in my opinion, if you can problem solve, if you can critically think and you can problem solve, you give a shit, like you actually generally care, you know, you're a team player, you want the mission to be successful. You don't care if it's you doing it or somebody else. Right? Those are the things you're really looking for. You can self-assess where you're good at and where you're not. Right? Like all those things play into effect on, to me, I'm like, okay, that's a good solid dude. Now, as an 18 Bravo, you can do all that stuff. Part of problem solving, and especially in combat, is having violence of action.
Sure.
So, like, I would really, really harp on that. It's
So
like
you'd give them positive points if they did it really hard. Like even if you make a mistake, as long as you do it going.
well. So the whole point of when you're in a combat environment, and you're talking about tactics. If the enemy is engaging on you, I am going to use overwhelming force to get them to stop. That's going to save lives.
Right.
Save our lives. Right. So you can't do that unless you use violence of action.
Okay.
Right. So that is, calling for fire, mortars, 50, whatever it is that's in your disposal, calling in cast to do that, So obviously, you got within whatever the rules of engagement are, but you can still use violence of action. So.
Okay. So and then your problem children, who are your
problem children, man, it's pretty easy to see problem children. So whenever I started giving block of instructions, I could tell within probably 5 minutes who my problem children were going to be, and I can start identifying them.
How?
Because they wouldn't be paying attention. They're not taking notes. They're rolling their eyes or looking back. They're just like, I'm just here. And I go, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Right off the bat, within a couple minutes, you can start telling.
So some people enjoy teaching the problem children and actually watching these guys who were the worst of the worst kind of blossom and become that next level. Who did you appreciate teaching more? Was it the guys that had a lot of issues or the guys that showed up ready to go and they just want to learn as much as you have to give?
The guys that are ready to go, ready to want to learn the most.
Yeah.
Because this is where I'm looking at it. Problem children should be dealt with. Problem children are problem children for a reason. Mm-hmm. And if they're at this point of the stage, right, like they shouldn't be problem children anymore.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
This organization is a professional organization.
It's a professional organization. At the end of the day, this is a selection. It's a qualification course. Mm-hmm. If you are not where you need to be, it doesn't mean you're not a good person. It just means you might need to come back.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Now, if a problem children should be solved back way before this time frame, not by the time they got to the Q or the qualification course. That's my personal opinion. Now, that's problem children that don't care, that are just like, I'm too cool for school.
Right.
Right. There were guys that were not meeting standards, but they cared. Mm-hmm. They gave 100%. They were just having a hard time.
Sure.
Those guys, love working with those guys. That's the difference between somebody who cares, trying to do that, tries to apply themselves and giving 100% versus the guy who has a chip on his shoulder. He's too cool for school. He already knows everything. You know what I mean? He's just not taking things serious. Those people, to me, they can come back when that's either you fix that or when you're ready.
Right on.
That's my personal opinion.
So in the 3 years that you were out there, any stories stand out that just something phenomenal happened?
So there was a couple things that we did that actually still got talked about for some time. I don't know if they're still talked about. Actually, some of them is because I had guys actually on social media hit me up on DM.
Okay.
And guys were like, man, that was the best. He's like, I've been to SODIC. I've been to like all these other schools. He's like, that's the best school that I've ever been to throughout my career.
The 18 Bravo
talking about
course.
the 18 Bravo committee when we was a tactical instructor. So
that's
to
huge.
me, that was huge, man, because I put I would say we put our heart and soul into that course.
What made yours different?
We made it different because we tried to make it where we did not say notionally this.
Notionally.
There's no such thing as notionally. Either you have it or you don't have it.
Okay.
I said there's no such thing as notional.
We're going to use our notional $10,000 off fund to buy this notional cannon.
So I had nothing was notional at all.
Good.
Right? Either you had it or you didn't have it. Right? And I was very adamant on that as like whenever people are on the objective, they're going to be, I said there will be Op 4 will be on the objective, or there's civilians that are part of the scenario. So like I had a really hard time. Like sometimes I'd have like VIPs that want to come out, and I'm like, you can't be on the objective.
Right.
Oh, I said you can sit from this area over here and watch.
We have a lot of scenarioisms that we used to call them too, where it's like, this just has to happen. It's just part of the scenario. I like that because you learn as you train as you fight. You learn as you fight. You know?
I had no scenario. No, I didn't. Can't remember anything where I said, "Oh, this was just not part of the." I made it to that, and then we did another thing there too, where I started implementing to where guys would go through the objective. They didn't know this was when I first started. It worked out really good. we first went on an objective, the first objective. If they took casualties, I would kill them off, right? And then they would have to bring them all the way back if they brought them back. Sometimes if they left them on the thing, they left them on the casualty, and they're like, oh, guys would start to get up. I'm like, no, you're dead. So I'm like, no, you're taking him to the med station. So I'd have him take him over to the med station.
You'd carry him, all of his gear
over to the med station, right? I wouldn't give him back. So
they just stay off the battlefield. Now their team is short.
What would happen is, and they would start losing guys on objectives, and then I would start another scenario for they would be another a UW force. So they were playing against each other, and they really didn't even understand kind of what was going on.
What I like
everything about that. So I made it. I tried to make it as realistic as possible.
So it builds on itself.
Well, so at the end of the day, and they're like, "Hey, when is John coming back?" I'm like, "He's not coming back. Yeah. He's not magically reappearing, right?" So it builds on itself. The scenario builds on itself. We had other scenarios back there to support it on the back side of it, to support another unit. We had another cadre over there. And then what it ended up doing is guys weren't like faking 3 to 5 second rushes, because they had no clue where these other guys were doing and what was going on with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They were actually like, oh shit, I don't know what's going on. Like, I am taking this like it's actual combat.
And the guys get more out of it that way.
They get way more out of it, because you have to. This is the thing about it. What really pissed me off as instructors is, like, they would get pissed off because students were half-assing shit.
Right.
They're half-assing it because you're a half-assed instructor.
You're half-assing it, exactly.
Right. You cannot expect somebody to give 100% and treat this like combat if you are not setting the stage to where it is as close to combat as you possibly can make it, right? So take the resources you can, and that's just, you know what I mean? Nothing's nothing half-assed. So that's how we ran it.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that y'all did so many scenarios going through the Bravo course. Yeah. I figured it was just you learn how to break down weapons and how to use and break down weapons, and then of course, effective range of those weapons, and that's it, because you guys learn a lot of weapons.
Oh yeah,
a lot of foreign weapons as well. So it sounds like you jam a lot into that course.
We had one class that was really, they were jacked up, right? And then so we had them afterwards you got to collect all their brass and everything, and the brass has to be separated because we got to weigh that shit to send it back or whatever. And they were just going slow while we're out at Camp McCall, and they were like throwing brass away in the trash. We were pulling them out, like giving them, like smoking them a little bit, right? Enough to, like, hey, get your head in the game. Like, you need to execute this right or whatever. Whole bunch of problems or whatever. So we're like, all right, fine. Take everything back, right? So we get them back to the rear. They're supposed to be done, do their cleaning, and go home that night. We dumped all the trash out. So they take all the trash out, take all the 50 cal brass. We made them do a full layout on all equipment, everything cleaned, laid out. I'm talking about serial number, line item. We even made them make formations for the brass. So like every 50 cal, every round had formations, like 9 mil, 5, you know what I mean? It was insane. And it was like, I remember I'm sitting there watching the students, and every time they would do it, like, we're like nitpicking it. Like, nope, this is wrong. Redo the whole thing. Yeah. Right? We didn't let them change it. You had to redo the whole thing, right? So I'm sitting there watching one of the students, and they're making the brass formations of the 7.62, right? Okay. And this kid, and they're already tired. It's like 3 a.m., right? And they're tired as shit because we didn't have them let them get much sleep as they're doing operations out there. And he's stacking this brass up. And one of the guys that was in charge of the, stacking this section of brass up was like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like tired. He's like kind of zoning out, trying to set it up. And he goes, that 7.62 round doesn't look like those other 7.62 rounds, because when you shoot them, those blanks, like some of them frange out and some of them stay clear. He goes over there and knocks all of his like formation over. He's how many hours setting this formation over?
Oh man! I mean, play stupid games.
And he's like, do it again. And this is another student. He said, like, do it again. That student there, man, I thought he was going to kill that kid. And then he was just like, I was like, hold on, stop. Just redo you know what I mean? I was just laughing so hard, man. Wow. I had to leave. Like, I had to stop it and then leave, go to the other room, and it was just like laughing so hard.
I don't know how you guys stay and roll. When things like that go down, it's especially during like SEER school, like those. they stay in roll during some hilarious times.
Oh yeah,
right? Especially if you know everything from behind the scenes. If you know what's happening, it's a nut roll, and we've been up 24, 48 hours, so we're droning.
But the thing about it is you stay in roll because those guys are getting something out. To them, it's real.
Yeah.
Right? And it is real.
It sure is.
Right? It's real. So, like, for there, you see some stuff that happens that it is pretty funny. But, like, I stay professional, and majority of the time there, I always myself took it as being this can cost somebody their life. Right. So even when they jacked up and it was funny, it wasn't funny because it could cost somebody their life.
That's
right? This was all tactics or this one was funny because it was just administrative shit.
It was all admin.
It was all admin stuff that they just had to do, and it was just kind of funny there. So
so relatively good time then as an instructor.
Oh yeah, I love the instructor portion of it, and it was I would say, leaving, by the time I did my instructor time and I came back to group, I was ready to be a team sergeant. Like I thought I was before I left, right? But I was ready after I did my instructor time.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So is that what took place then when you left SWIC? Were you promotable, or did you go as an E7?
No. So I made E7 in 7 years. I made E7 pretty quick, but I was an E7 for 7 years. So, so the E7 got finished E7 in 7 years, but then I stayed at E7 for 7 years.
Okay.
So when I got back after I did my SWIC tour, I came back and I was moved up to assistant team sergeant.
Okay.
Yeah. So
did you take the Fox role or
no.
Okay, so just assistant ops?
So I was like senior Bravo, assistant team sergeant.
So there was a stint when I first got into group where the assistant ops was always the Fox. That was the position, right? And then after that, you started seeing young guys go to the Fox course, and then it really became.
So there's two things to me. The assistant. This is the problem where I don't think it makes it very difficult for the Fox to be the assistant team sergeant. In my personal opinion, is because if you're in combat operations, that guy's always nerding out on shit. He's not out there with the guys getting trucks ready, doing the training. He's out kind of doing
the intel
piece, right? So he's really not with the guys. The guys that should be the assistant team sergeant, to me, should be the guy that's with the guys all the time.
That makes
because he's the one that making sure all that stuff behind scene is like being taken care of. And if there's any issues, he's kind of reporting it back to you. You know what I mean? And then back in the day where the Fox was one of the senior guys, it made sense kind of that way. But nowadays, the assistant team sergeant is the guy that's most capable and is the most qualified for that role.
Okay.
Right? The way I look at it. If it's the Fox and he's the most qualified or whatever, it makes it very difficult for him to do that job in certain deployed time frames because you're just not around the boys, man.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So
now you come back. Now you're in the assistant ops role on. Was it the same detachment you left?
No. Went to 2nd Battalion. So there again, I came back whenever got back from my SWIC tour. I'm like, who's leaving for Afghanistan? And they're like, 2nd Battalion is. They already had a team that they wanted me to go to. Okay. So one of the guys at the weapons committee was like, hey, this dude's coming over here. He's like, you need to grab him up. He's like, we're getting ready to go to Afghanistan. He says, this is the guy you want. So I was already slotted on to go on a team and go down range as soon as I got back to group.
Okay. So what year, do you remember what year this is? Your third trip?
2013.
Back to Afghanistan in 2013. What time of year was it?
I don't remember. I'd have to look at my DD24. I don't remember.
The only reason I ask is because I was there in 13.
So we did. So it was like 13 or 14 time frame. So and I don't remember exactly when.
Did you backfill 3rd group or 10th group?
We backfill 3rd group, I think.
Okay.
I think so.
So
no, I don't think so. I think we backfilled the 7th group team. We were at Kandahar. We had the commando mission.
Gotcha.
So I think it was actually another 7th group team that was there. Yeah, I think we backfilled them, and they ended up re-backfilling us again. So I was there for the initial coming in, but I wasn't there for the initial going out. I had already left by the time the other team came in. I ended up going home like 2 weeks, a week or two early because I had to do my DLPT.
Gotcha.
So
those mandatory things.
Yeah,
I mean, your Spanish better be on point to get to Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so how's this trip 2013, 2014 compared to those early ones now that
this was a breeze, man.
the war had changed a lot, huh?
Yeah, and we were doing commando operations, so like we would helo in, be there for a day or two, and then come back.
You had all the assets, right, with the commando mission?
We had the assets, and it wasn't like we were going in and we weren't in troops in contact like all the time. Like we might go in there. I mean, we may have done 5 operations before we got any contact. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like It's not in the Helmand province. You left the wire, you were getting shot at.
You're in a tick.
Yeah. So for almost 2 years, like I was troops in kinetic operations. So you went on this trip doing the commando operations, and it was totally different. Like you may go out and nothing happened. You know, that was the first time in my whole career that I've ever left the wire and not been shot at, and not been in troops in contact. So
that's crazy to think.
Yeah, that is crazy to think. Like you look back at that, and that was the first time I think I've ever left the wire and was not engaged in kinetic operations.
So that trip, pretty easy for you then, training commandos, doing hits.
Yeah, training commandos, doing hits. It was still good. It was rewarding. I mean, we still did some good operations during that trip. But
are these 6-month rotations now?
Yeah, I think that was a 6-month rotation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a 6-month rotation.
So in and out, no real issues on that one?
No, when I left, they did have. I actually went back early, and the team, they went to the Helmand province actually right after I left, and they ended up losing. One of the sister ODAs ended up losing a guy, and one of the guys on our team got injured. So that was kind of a little bit like, I don't want to armchair quarterback stuff, but I'd been to the Helmand province before. So like not being there and they went, like bothers me. It still bothers me to this day. Like, you know, you can't help but think like,
things would have been different if you were there.
Yeah, not that they would have, but like I had a lot of experience there, so it does bother me.
Was that a potential that your team could have been the one there in Helmand, and it just happened they moved you all?
No, they just went there for an operation with a joint ODA.
I see.
Yeah, so that operation wasn't I didn't know that operation was happening until like I was on a bird like leaving out. Like it was like happening right as I was leaving out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like
those things we can't go back and change.
Yeah,
Those are the tough ones.
Yeah, those are the tough ones. Yeah.
After you returned from that trip, so now you're 2014, back at 7th Group. What's life like there?
After that trip, let's see, what did I do after that trip? Shortly after that trip, I want to say I ended up. Actually, the team sergeant got in some trouble on the coming back from Afghanistan, and he got taken off the team. So I stepped up to be the team sergeant.
Okay, because you were assistant ops.
Yeah, but I hadn't taken it. I hadn't got promoted yet, and then that ended up. I did that for a little bit, and then another E8 came in, took that position. I went to the B team for a little bit, then got picked up as 8. As a team sergeant, and then went back to the team that I was a team sergeant for.
Okay. So what year did you pen E8?
14 years. So that would have been 2014. Yeah, because I think I did 7. So it would have been 14 years. So 2014, I think.
That's 14, still 15. Fast.
That was still pretty fast. So.
And now you're ready. Like you said, when you left SWIC, you thought you were ready to be a team sergeant before you went to SWIC, but now you know you're ready, and you've done the assistant ops job and a deployment with that. So you're ready to go.
Yep.
And so you go back, take the same team that you had left. How's the dynamics?
So no, I took a whole new ODA.
Oh, you took
a whole new ODA.
I thought you went back to
No, took a whole new ODA. Dynamics there were a senior team, but the team sergeant that had been there for some time. I want to say like 4 years. He was at E7 as a team sergeant.
Okay.
For a while. So he's E7 as a team sergeant. So he did like 2 years as the E7, 2 or 3, and then got promoted to E8, then two more years as the E8.
Okay.
So those guys were tight. You know what I mean? So that was a pretty tight knit team. So when I ended up showing up to that ODA, those guys pretty much, I wouldn't say I had a mutiny, but the team that he just came off of, the team sergeant didn't have a very good reputation.
Right.
Right? So they were like, oh, shit, this guy is just going to be an extension of this other guy, right? So they just kind of automatically thought like that. So they were pretty nervous, right? That's what they told me. So when I originally got there, I said, hey, listen, man, this is the deal. I said, give me 30 days. I said, if you don't like the team in 30 days, I said, I'll replace everybody that doesn't want to be here. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I handled it.
Okay.
So nobody wanted to leave after the 30 days, so.
So you guys worked it out?
Oh, yeah. It was not even really that big of a deal. It was just really.
An assumption?
Yeah, it was an assumption or whatever. So.
Got it.
Yeah, those dudes were solid. Best time I had on in SF, I would say it was the time as a team sergeant.
How many years did you do as a team sergeant?
Did a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. And then I was lucky enough to get the guy that was my assistant team sergeant to take over the ODA after I left.
That can't work out any better.
No, it can't work any better. So he kept up the same traditions. And then when he left, he got the guy that was already on the team whenever he came in as a new guy, right? He took over the team after he left. So we had quite a few, almost 6-year run at it.
Nice.
Right?
It's good when you can see the guys that want to be in that position and being able to groom them for that position.
Yeah,
they're the right guy and they want it.
They have to be the right guy, and the culture has to be good on the team.
Right.
Right. So, if the culture isn't good on the team, then it makes it difficult for that guy to step up and take it over.
We used to be peers for the last 4 years. Now I work for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No issues at all, man. Those guys. It takes the right guy to do it, though, too. But if you have a guy that's already an assistant team sergeant and he's already done good as assistant team sergeant, it shouldn't be that big of a switch over, because I'll tell you, when my assistant team sergeant, my guy was assistant team sergeant, I really didn't have to yell at those dudes. That dude would crush those dudes before I even had to say anything.
Right on.
You know what I mean? So, I didn't have, you know what I mean? He took care of that shit before it even had to be an issue for me.
That's the right way of doing it.
Yeah. So, but I gave everybody on that team buy-in, and I sat down with everybody there. I'm like, okay, hey, listen, this is the deal. These are the standards I think an ODA should have. What do you think? What do you think the standards should be? And everybody was like, oh, I think the standards, some of it was physical fitness. I think every Green Beret should be able to run 5 miles in 40 minutes. Okay, that's the standard for our ODA. I think everybody should be able to do this. This is what I think our ODA should do. So then now when it's time to test out or we're doing PT,
the standard. You guys wrote it.
We wrote it, man. So let's
awesome.
execute. So it was pretty easy.
That's a good way of doing it. That's a good leadership trait. So your time as a team sergeant, did you get to do any combat operations?
Yep, we did. We went to Afghanistan. We did a commando operation. We did commando operation, and then we did the Tejas operation too. We did split teams.
How was that?
It was good, man. It was good. So when we did the Tejas, we were actually doing a lot more. It was a little bit more to be kinetic. Okay. So I took a lot of my pipe hitters and we went to that location because that was where everything kind of needed.
Okay.
We needed the assets, So we went over there and did that. Did some pretty good operations there. Did a prison raid during that trip. Some okay kinetic operations. It wasn't like any of the other one. I would say the other ones before were a little bit more, so.
Okay, so things were winding down as far as combat operations were concerned.
I mean, they were still doing combat operations, but it all depends on where you're located at.
Sure.
Is the reality of it. Is how long you're staying in time. Are you doing period of darkness? You know what I mean? Are you hitting operations there?
Is it wintertime? Is it summertime?
Yeah, is it wintertime? Is it summertime? Is it during harvest, during poppy season? You know what I mean? All these things come into effect.
Ramadan,
all those things come into effect on, how much kinetic operations you're going to get in, So we did, I remember one operation that we did, everybody was like freaking out because the aircraft was shut down. So they were wanting operations to be done. And I was already doing the Tejas mission at that point, And I go, hey, well, they needed somebody to go to Sangin.
Okay.
And then I was like, all right, we'll go to Sangin. And all the other ODAs like kind of started having a mutiny on me. Like they were like pissed off at our team. And I go, because nobody wanted to drive there.
Right. They wanted no aircraft.
No aircraft. So I'm just like, I'll do it. So like everybody was like, it was like some foreign thing. I'm like, bro, we used to do this in 2005 or 2007, 2008, 2009, where it was very, very, very kinetic.
We have
and the
better
ID
equipment.
threat, the ID threat was higher at that point. And we had GMVs. Now we got these big ass RGs
and shit,
you know what I mean, Mac Vs and all this stuff here now. And I go, and then now I have I have at least some drones. I didn't have that shit before,
right?
You know, and so we went out and did operation there, and it was, that one was kind of funny, man, because we were troops in contact, we were getting after it, and Hire's like, all right, hey, we need you to come back. Like they're like, hey, we were out there for a couple of days, you know what I mean, and we were like getting after it, but then they're like, hey, we need you to come back. So that was a weird one to me. It was a different time frame.
Yeah,
like, the violence of action just wasn't there during that trip. You know,
risk adverse,
a lot of risk adverse.
Yeah,
a lot of risk adversity.
So coming back from that, where are you at? Are you, if I'm counting, that sounds like about five rotations, give or take, to combat. Are you getting tired of war yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I mean, I do think you have these. I think you have these like thought processes of like when you leave Afghanistan, you're like, I don't want to come back to this place again. Right. And then you come back home and you almost forget it. You like earn for it, right? Then you get back in the bird and you you land in Kandahar, and that gate comes down and you smell Afghanistan and you're like, holy shit, I'm back here again. You know what I mean? And you just get that like, here we go again, you know? Get back in that routine. Get back in that routine again. But
I think that's the thing people miss most about the deployments is the routine of it. Life gets simpler when you have a routine of chow, PT, operations, and sleep. Yeah. It's simpler.
Yeah. It is. It is simpler life.
And for those, you know, that's your purpose. That's what you're training for. You're executing your purpose.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
3 years as a team sergeant.
I don't think quite. We're about 2 years.
2 years as a team sergeant.
Yeah.
And then I know when I met you, you were just moving over to Special Forces Command.
Yep.
Was that when you left your team? You were coming over there.
Yep.
All right. How'd that come about? Were you volunteered for that job?
So every time for my career, if you can kind of see, I try to, if you don't choose yourself, somebody's going to choose for you.
That's right.
So I am going to choose for myself if I'm given that opportunity. Right. So when I came to group, initially out of the Q course, I went to group early so I could try to pick my position.
Right.
When I came out, whenever we were leaving to BRAC, whatever, I volunteered for SWIC because I wanted to choose my outcome. When I got to SWIC, I went to see the CSM, and he asked me, and I told him I'd go anywhere. But at the end of the day, this is where I would like to go, and these is where I think I'd be most effective for you.
Right.
Got that. When I came back, I want to go back to Afghanistan. I already had a team coordinated with a guy that I knew from there to get me on a team so I could go to Afghanistan again. Right. All this is like.
Yep.
So to me, I'm like,
if you don't manage your career, somebody else will manage it.
If you don't manage what you're going to do, somebody else is going to manage it for you, right? So, I was asked, "Hey, do you want to do a first sergeant position?" And then I go, "Yeah, I'll do a first sergeant position." A first sergeant position came open, which was First Special Forces Command, which you could compete for it, which is not the one that I would like to have. I want to stay at 7th Group, right? But they said, do you want to compete for it? I said yes, because goes back to what it is. If you don't start making decisions for yourself, he's like, hey, the group CSM's like, you don't have to take it if you don't want to, right? Or you don't have to compete for it. We'll put somebody else's name in. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't get this. They're not going to just work. You know, where do I go next if I don't take this? Right. So I'm like, so I'll take what I know. You know, so I put my packet up, and obviously from there you got to compete with other groups. And luckily that I got it. So
how was that? Because technically, First Special Forces Command is a deployable command.
Yep.
and they're the headquarters to all of the special forces groups. So how was that? Now you're managing personnel for all the groups, basically, right?
Yep. Yeah. So obviously, when you go to a headquarters unit, for me, like, you're going to have challenges. You go up there. The biggest challenges that I had there was accountability. Like those, it is really astonishing. The higher up you go, the least amount of accountability they have.
Yeah.
For themselves, right? So to me, I'm like, well, the whole headquarters is it's hypocritical because they're trying to hold the groups accountable. But I'm going over there, and like as I'm having our meetings to make sure everything's squared away within our own headquarters.
Right.
Government travel cards haven't been paid in 6 months. 20, 40, 100 grand. How do you owe 100 grand on your government travel card? Right? Wow. People are buying shit and they're not putting it on the property book. We open up, closets and it's full of shit that's not on the property book. Right? People can't pass a PT test. You get people that are 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. And you're like, how are you going to hold these groups to a standard? Right? Because I'm like, when I was at group, if I didn't have my voucher done within 24 hours, didn't even matter if my wife was in labor.
That's right.
I was getting called to see the man on the carpet like, hey, why isn't your voucher done? Right? And I'm like, so like when I got there, I'm like, so the DTS guy's like, I want all government credit cards. If they're overdue, past due, I want you to turn it off. And they're like, yeah, but that's the directorate. I'm like, I don't give a shit if he's the colonel. You turn it off. So he's like, so I had to go up to the director and I'm like, turn it off. I'm like, this is bullshit. I said, you hold these groups to this accountability. Right. So then for a while, once I started enforcing that, I started getting phone calls like, hey, listen, I'm at the airport. My things we'll pay your government travel card. Well, why am I supposed to do that? Listen, call your director. I'm not your first line supervisor. You know what I mean? So that was an issue. When I got there, the guy who was doing the schools was giving schools away to guys in 1st Special Forces Command. Like, oh, bring me a case of beer or some scotch or whatever, and I'll get you into Halo school. And I'm like, this is bullshit. So when I found out about that, I go, listen, all school requests from here go through me. I said, if it doesn't sign off for me, whatever. I said, listen to me. I said, if I find out you give a school away that doesn't go to a group, I said, I will crush you. I said, I'll do everything in my power to get your ass out of the Army. You know what I mean? Like, I had to give direct threats. Wow. But, you get to these headquarters buildings, whatever, and nobody wants to step on toes because it's status quo and, like, you know what I mean? Because by doing that, if I stepped on too many toes, the CG can just fire me. I'm just the first sergeant. Right. The CSM can be like, hey, no, man, you're just pissing too many people off. Like, you got to go. Sure. So, like, you have to figure out a way to leverage yourself to where you're correct, right? And be like, hey, listen, this can't be the case. I had a colonel who was a full-board colonel who was on the promotable status to be a general, was so overweight, and I had to go to the chief of staff. So I went to the CSM, the regimental CSM, right. And I'm like, hey, listen, I said, I'm going to go talk to the chief of staff, and I said, I want to put him on the overweight program. If I do that, he's going to lose his promotable status. Right. I don't even make sure you're going to support me when I go there and talk to him. And he's like, and I'm like, it's the standard, man. It doesn't matter. I don't care that he's a colonel or not, right? So I go over to the chief of staff, and I'm like, hey, listen, he needs to be on the overweight program. You know what I mean? Yeah. I said, we are going to do that. Are you going to support us? You know what I mean? And these are the things, like, you had to have these conversations with them ahead of time. He's like, yep, sure, we support you. He ended up self-selecting anyways. He did some dumb shit.
Pretty crazy to have that conversation with another grown man, huh?
Bro, I mean, you can see him right now. I mean, the Secretary of War had to come out there and just call everybody out. And you're like, bro, it's insane. It's been going on for years, and people are just, turning a blind eye. The problem is it's toxic, man. It's toxic. It's toxic as shit, and people don't want to uphold the standards either for whatever reason. Either they think they're they can't meet their standards themselves. They've let themselves go, or they don't think it's a priority or whatever. But this has been an issue for some time now.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to take years to clean up.
Absolutely.
You know, and if the Secretary of War, that department does not stay on it for some time, like years down the road, and they go back to this progressive, laid back shit, it's going to just go back and down again.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So was that a year gig, the first time?
So it was supposed to be a 2-year gig, but I did a little bit over a year. I want to say a little bit over a year because I was a geo bachelor at the time.
Right. I
think I did a year and a half there. And so I went up to the regimental CSM right before the board. I was there to get my NCOER in for the board before the board convened and to see if I was going to make E9 or not. And I'm like, hey, listen, I said, I'm ready to go back. Let's put somebody else in here. I said, and he goes, well, you don't know if you're going to make it yet or not. I'm like, either I'm making it or I don't. I'm done. Like, it's like I'm ready to get back to group.
That's a hard year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's like 2 years because it's a PCS move.
Right.
So I did a little bit under 2 years, about a year and a half, I think. So I got myself back to 7th group because I was like, I didn't want to be stuck there any longer. And like, again, I want to choose my destiny as much as I possibly can, So I'm like, I'm choosing to go. So I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go, So we got somebody else in there. And then I went back to, went there and got the 7th group. I chose my destiny leaving too.
So you left promotable then? You ended up.
No, I didn't leave promotable. So we were going through the packets. We already submitted out to the groups for the packets to be submitted, right? So by the time I had a replacement starting coming, I didn't get promoted. I wasn't promotable yet.
Okay.
The list came out right before I left. So I made a decision before the list came out.
That you were leaving.
That I was leaving.
Sure.
I'm leaving no matter what, whether I make it promotable or I'm not.
But you're coming into 7th group promotable, though.
Yeah, but I did go back. I didn't go into 7th group promotable.
Okay,
yeah.
So are you immediately going to an ops job, a S3 job, or where are you going?
I got there, and the group CSM was like, hey, we got a spot over at the group S3, Sergeant Major. He's like, can you fill that? He wanted me to fill that before I went and took a company. So, and I was going through just SOFC and USASMA like at the same time.
And that's the Special Forces, or
the
Sergeant Major course?
Sergeant Major Academy,
Special Operations Sergeant Major Academy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of, that was great.
So that you're doing a distance learning portion for a while?
You do distance learning, and then you got to go to Tampa for JSOFC. That's the Special Operations Sergeant Major Academy. And then you come back, and then you have to do USASMA because the big Army still wants you to do part of their Sergeant Major Academy too. So you have to do like a white paper and then some online stuff or whatever during that time.
Okay.
So
you're sitting in the group 3, going to school. You graduate. Do you already have a company lined up, or? So
no, this is another interesting story. So we had a person there, a guy at 7th group who did a transition from a male to a female.
Oh.
Right. So I was hearing rumors that they were going to make me be the company sergeant major with the with this guy, right? Who did a full transition. He's got breasts and did the chop.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm hearing these rumors. So I go up to the group CSM and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm hearing rumors that you're putting me in this position. I said, at the end of the day, like, I'm following orders, but you're asking me to take what I believe in and put me in this position. I don't think the Army is going to win on this one. You know what I mean? So I'm asking you as a professional courtesy not to put me in this position.
Right.
And then, he kind of like beat around didn't say one thing or another, kept it very ambiguous, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like, he didn't really say one thing or another. And then I left. The guy who was in a position, in one position, he ends up getting injured in Afghanistan It was a sergeant major, and they had to do a switch.
Okay.
So once they did that one switch, it reshuffled the whole cards.
I understand.
Right. So once that switch happened, that guy went over to be the company sergeant major with the guy who was now a chick, and or got the chop or whatever, and then they put me somewhere else.
And those sergeant major slatings, they're generally, once they're set, right? Like,
yeah, unless like something like that happens,
hurt,
right? If somebody gets hurt, somebody puts on retirement, somebody med boards, some issues go on, and when that happens, it changes the whole. It can really shuffle the deck, so it can affect multiple people when that happens.
Okay,
not just one other guy.
Happy accident.
Oh, so, yeah. For me, I dodged a bullet on that one.
So now you're taking over a company.
Yep.
Sergeant Major billet. So for the viewers at home that don't know, that's less than 1% of enlisted people make it to Sergeant Major. I mean, it's I don't know if you knew that.
It's pretty hard.
It's a big deal. Yep. So now you've made it to the pinnacle. How's your company?
Company was good. So I got to the company right when COVID was going on. So COVID happened, right? So COVID happened, and they were just getting back from a deployment, and they had lost like a couple of their guys on that trip.
Okay.
Right. So they ended up losing 3 guys. 3 guys on the trip. I knew one of them. He was an 18 Bravo. I went to the Q course with him, and I went to Q course with him. So they had a really rough trip. You know what I mean? So I came in right after that, and then COVID happened. So it was like months guys weren't even coming into the company.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it was dealing with that whole shenanigans.
Yeah, that was a very unique time.
Oh, yeah. Everything, like teleworking, and it was just like...
Accountability had to be an easy one there, huh?
It was easy, but luckily, it's easy, but like nothing... Okay, you're alive, just, you know what I mean?
Everybody's locked down in their house.
Yeah. I mean, it was Florida, so it wasn't... I remember COVID was going on, and you went to... What was it? The brew? Was that Props down there? Like Props was like, I remember everything else was shut down. I remember seeing hundreds of people out at Props like getting smashed. No mask, no nothing. Like Florida did not. I remember there was one place here that I went to, was a local place, and they were like, I remember they were trying to enforce the mask thing. Some of the like local businesses. Yeah. So they're like, hey, you have to wear a mask. So I remember walking inside the place, and they're like, hey, you have to wear a mask in here. So I turned around and left. And I couldn't have been the only person, because it didn't last for more than a week, and they took it off. Yeah. Because people were like, okay, you don't want me to wear a mask? I'm just not buying shit from your store anymore. Yeah. Florida was great during that time. Oh, yeah. Florida was totally great during that time. Especially here in the Panhandle, like there's just not that many people up here. It's good. Yeah, it's good. No. So your company Sergeant Major time, relatively just pretty easy. Yeah, it was good. So we had we were getting ready to, our mission set changed like multiple times, right? We were going to South America, then we went to going to NTC, and then we're going to Afghanistan. So they had us slided to go to Afghanistan, and the Afghanistan trip ended up canceling. And it didn't cancel. So the Afghanistan trip was going, and then the pullout happened, right? So after that shit show from the pullout or whatever, like I was pissed. Yeah. And I was getting ready to go back to Afghanistan again as a company sergeant major, and I went to the battalion or the group CSM, and I'm like, hey, like 2 days after that, I'm like, hey, I'm done. I got out after that. So you knew if we're done with that, you're hanging it up. Yeah, once I think I went to him like 2 days, maybe the day or two after the Afghanistan like withdrawal and that mishap, and after that I went to his office. I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing here for me anymore. So, what was it that stands out? I mean, it was a lot. Like to me, at that point, like I had some personal things that were going on in like in our life or whatever that has changed like the course of direction for us. And I was like, man, I'm done with it. You know what I mean? I was not going to have it, you know.
And once you make that decision, it's a final decision. You're at probably what, 22 years by that point.
Yeah, I was probably about 22 or whatever, because I got out at 24. Like I had to do a replacement, right. And then they had that 1 year kind of getting out, and then the med board was backed up because of COVID and all that other shit. So it was a
slow moving process. Very
slow moving process.
What did you do with yourself during that time when you were transitioning out, when you knew you're hanging it up? I got to find a new purpose in life. What was your mindset?
Man, so I had a very tough transition, right? And it came before before we started moving out, like, of the military. So in 2020, this was like right when I took over the company as a company sergeant major. I get a phone call that our oldest son was in a motorcycle accident. Oh, so I get a phone call and go to the hospital. We get to the hospital and it was COVID, so everything shut down.
Right.
There's law enforcement out in front of the hospital, and there's a nurse there, and they weren't letting anybody inside the emergency room, right? So it's a ghost town, you know? And so, like, I'm arguing with them. I'm like, hey, my son's in there. He's in a motorcycle accident, you know? And the cop was like, you all can't go in there. And now it starts getting heated. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going inside that hospital. I said, you can arrest me or not, but I'm going inside the hospital, you know? And now my wife and my mother-in-law is like trying to calm me down. The nurse starts in like, hey, they're trying to save him. And like, luckily, before it started like escalating too bad, one of the doctors or nurses came out from the hospital and was like, hey, they can come in. So we go inside there, and then from there, that's when they start telling us the news. And they're like, you know, I remember it was me, my wife, and then my mother-in-law, and my wife's mom, and they're like, hey, he didn't make it. So, like I went back there and to see him, and it was tough, man.
Oh, I'm so sorry, brother.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So like dealing with all of that, like it was difficult. We had at that point we left the hospital, and then now we had to go home and tell our kids. You know, and like that was so hard. You know, my wife was there. I don't even know what I would have had to do if I would have had to tell her. So that was tough because it was during COVID. We couldn't even we wasn't even sure we were going to be able to have a funeral for him because like COVID was going on. Like they were blocking everything down. Like it's just right when COVID kind of started. So the first funeral home we went to, they're like, no, we can't do it. So then we went to like 3 or 4 different other funeral homes. And finally we found a funeral home that were like, I said, hey, listen, man, I'm like, I will have like the whole ODA out here. I'll make sure whatever precautions you need to happen to make this happen, we'll make it happen, you know? And they're like, okay, no problem. We'll, you know, you can have, they did the funeral.
Jeez, man.
So
that's unimaginable.
Yeah.
Terry, I'm so sorry, man.
So after that, like my transition was terrible. So then I still was I hadn't even met my company yet because COVID was going on. You know what I mean? So I get to the company, now I'm like, people are starting going back to work after COVID was over. So I'm sitting here. COVID had just was just finishing up. So like now, like we had just been in the company maybe like a week or two, like kind of getting back to work. And like I didn't know what to do because we had already been all this time off of work for COVID, And I think me and my wife stayed. We did the funeral, and then we were off work maybe a week, and then we went back to work because we didn't know what to do, man. Like we didn't know how to grieve. We didn't know how to like we had other kids. Like what are we supposed to do, So we ended up going back to work, and I would say, for that 2 years, I think it was about 2 years as a company sergeant major. I was just barely keeping my head above water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
So at that point, I wasn't doing PT anymore. PT kind of went away, and then so like my transition kind of started like at the bottom. So when it was time to get out of the military, I started doing my Red Empire time, and I was already kind of left to my own devices, and like how it is. You feel as you're transitioning out, you're kind of doing this solo. Yeah, you've had this support network your whole career. Like you're interacting with guys. You had like some kind of like brotherhood or camaraderie. Like all that shit like just like ends.
There's somebody else going through the same thing with you.
Yeah, like suddenly, like that's ending. Like so you don't have any really support network right over there. And then on top of us dealing with the grief of Jacob, it was like we were trying to deal with our own grief. So it wasn't like we were supporting each other. Like me and my wife really weren't supporting each other at this time frame either. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a very, very, very tough transition for me. So yeah.
Were you taking advantage of any of the things that were out there, Intrepid Spirit or any of that stuff?
So I ended up going to the the STAR course. I went to the STAR course.
Okay. So
right before I got out, which that kind of helps a little bit. I mean, it kind of helps like make sure your medical records are good and make sure like you kind of know like hey, listen, I need these things checked out. But as far as like extensive care, you really don't get much from there on that portion of it. I will say like that was the initial time I did ketamine treatment. They had a ketamine treatment
How was
there.
That for you?
So that was good. That lasted a couple months for me. I think I did three doses, 3 of that. The ganglia blocks didn't really do anything for me. I had done those before, but the ketamine I think worked for me. I lasted a couple months or whatever, I would say.
Okay. And you're doing that right at the tail end. So are you now that you're transitioning out of the military, how long are you kind of staying in this funk?
Man, I would say probably about 2.5 years, 3 years, I would say roughly.
What were you using primarily to manage?
Just alcohol, really.
Yeah,
alcohol. But I never got. That's what I was saying before. I never got like. I didn't drink where I like passed out. I drink to medicate. So I'd be drinking every night. Maybe drink before I went to bed.
Right.
Like I was saying before, like taking an Ambien and drinking, like stuff like that. Maybe I think some THC. I was smoking some weed there for a little bit during that time frame, but that was really it. But I didn't like go on drunken benders or whatever. But I was using it for coping mechanisms,
sure.
Which still wasn't good.
So what does that look like for you? Are you staying home all the time? Are you running around looking for a job? What's that?
So at that point there, man, I was really. We have a medical clinic, so we have a brick and mortar. So we're setting that up too. So we're starting businesses.
Oh.
So we have like HRT clinic. So I was doing that. So on that side, we were setting that stuff up together. but I go into appointments and that. But still, there was not a whole lot of time that I was still like trying to find out like what my purpose was, and like kind of like not being as productive as I probably should have been. Trying to look for different things. Like I did day trading for some time. Like, okay, do I like this? You know what I mean? And then like, so I'm like kind of hopping from one thing to the next. So that's kind of really kind of what my day to day kind of looked like.
At your low points, did you ever get to the point where you thought about taking your life?
So I talked about suicide ideations. I truthfully don't think it's not unnatural for guys. It's like I think for me, it came into the point to where when you got upset, right, or when you're in like an altercation. Anytime I had that was just because it was something wasn't going right in my marriage, or something was just pissed me off, right? Sure. Like that's whenever I was just like, what am I doing this for?
It's that spur of the moment.
That spur of the moment kind of like thing, right? Nothing to where like where you're down or something like that, I guess.
Prolonged and you're planning it.
Yeah, prolonged planning kind of stuff. That's like, you know, kind of one of those things like, what am I doing this for? You know, like it'd be just easier just if this was done and over with. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, you know. Right. But like, I know some guys have had issues to where they planned it out and like all that. I never had any problems. I never did anything like that for me personally.
So when you were searching for your purpose, trying different things, what was working for you? What ultimately did you find?
Ultimately, what ended up happening to me was I had this like kind of, I'm getting ready to retire. I'm at 24 years in service. Like I've accomplished all these things, and like I'm about ready. My marriage is about ready to. We're crumbling and burning. You know, we're not communicating or fighting. Like I'm like, what's the point of all of this? If at the finish line, I'm single. Like my family. You know what I mean? Right. I'm not seeing my kids. I mean, my wife is like, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, I got to fix myself to fix our marriage.
Right.
So for me, I started off in the gym. So I went back to the gym, started eating healthy again, and got my fitness level back up, because that's kind of that's what I knew, you know.
Foundation.
That was my foundation, you know. So started getting getting my physical fitness level up. Then like I started reading more again. I'm like, okay, I kind of went back to what I said before, like, okay, how do I fix this?
Right.
You know, so start some education to figure out what I need to do. And then, how am I supposed to interact with my wife? How do I better communicate with her? Like all these things I'm trying to read up on. And then I started going to therapy myself. I go, okay, let me try some therapy, see how that's going to help me out. And then I talked to my wife, I'm like, hey, you need to go to therapy yourself. So you need to go through it. And then I'm like, we need to go to a marriage counselor. So we started going to a marriage counselor. So just like little steps at a little bit at a time to like try to.
Man, I'm surprised. A lot of people don't like to talk therapies. A lot of GBs, and you're an advocate for them. That's awesome. I'm really surprised to hear it.
Yeah. So for me, this is the way I look at things, right? You can there's a couple things, right? Either you can, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting a different result, right? So if what you're doing is not working, why not try something different that may work?
100%.
Now, I am not, I even went to my therapist or whatever, because she's like, when I was going to my therapist, they're like, why don't you talk about, because I didn't talk about a whole lot of stuff, right? And like negative stuff. And I go, listen, I don't believe in that. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, if I come in here and bitch and moan to you all day long, I'm going to leave here thinking about bitching and moan. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, so she's like, well, every time you come in here, it's all positive. It's all like whatever. I'm like, because that's the way I got to do it, or I'm not. So there's a fine line, I think, when you talk about therapy. If you go in there and you talk about all your problems,
right,
then you're going to be dealing with problems.
That makes sense.
To me, I go in there and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm effectively doing this. Hey, listen, I had a fight with my wife. I miscommunicated wrong. What's some options I can do? What can I do better to help communicate better with this? Oh, okay, try this, try that. Right? Like I'm going to working it as a solution, not there to dump all my garbage bullshit on her.
That makes sense.
I take therapy totally different.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
It's a lot of work, and people forget that it's work. That if you want to heal, it takes effort on your part, and it takes work.
Yeah.
I like how you started to talk about all those successes that you had in your career. You fucking crushed everything, man. Knocked everything out of the park, and then here you are retired, and you can't find significance in all those successes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think most of us will experience some variant of that, and it's, call it your midlife crisis point or whatever, but we go from being that very special tool and having a very unique purpose to now we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, because the thing about it is, this is what people have a false understanding of it until it gets taken away from them. I see guys all the time, like, if your purpose is anything that can be taken away from you, and it gets taken away from you, then your whole identity is shattered.
Gone.
It's gone, right? So, that's why I have an issue with this. I'm not great at it, but this grind culture and like success is this. I'm like, most of these guys don't know their ass from a hole in the ground because they've never had something so dramatically taken from them to make them realize that everything that they're talking about is blowing smoke up their ass. It doesn't mean shit. The nice car that you're driving, the nice home, all this bullshit that you're trying to achieve means absolutely nothing, right? But you don't get that until you have something taken away from you that you're like, man, none of this means anything. That's right. This promotion, all these things that you're talking about don't mean anything. That doesn't mean you don't drive towards them. That doesn't mean that, like, if you want a nice go right ahead.
Right.
But if that is your number one priority in life, you are setting yourself up for failure, right? So, that's what I think about, like, a lot of these people here that are like, they focus on this, and on the outside, you look at them and they're like, oh, this guy's so successful. He owns this company, he's this and this. Man, I look at them and I feel, if they don't understand it yet, I feel sorry for them. The guy that does understand it, that I think does a really good job as far as civilians, is who's the guy that owns Virgin Mobile? Not Virgin. He owns like Richard Branson. Is it Branson?
Not sure.
Yeah. He owns I don't know how many companies, right? And he sits there and he scales it all and he lets other people run them. And he's out skiing and living life and doing billions and billions of dollars, right? And I'm like, because he understands, like, at the end of the day, like, something in him has clicked to where he's like, no, I don't know him personally, or I don't know I've really talked to him or whatever. But at the end of the day, he's like, I'd rather have somebody else do it so I can live my life and do things that I enjoy doing with the people I enjoy doing them with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, we talk about trading our time for money.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
In the military, I don't feel like we do that so much. In the military, we have a mission, right? And and there's a purpose, and but then when we leave that, it's hard to go to that.
Yes, but you do, as an SF guy, you are a force multiplier, right? So you're teaching somebody else to do something. You're trying to work yourself out of a job.
That's right.
Right? So I did that for every place that I went to.
That's what you did.
The guy that I wanted to take over for the team, like, I helped square him away. I set him up like I wanted him to take the team. I'm looking for somebody to take my position. Like, that's what you should be doing as you coming in there. Is like, I'm going somewhere. I'm like, okay, who's the guy that can replace me when it's time for me to go? Who can I mentor up to do this? Like, you're always trying to work yourself out of a job. Like, so that's kind of how I look at things.
But so many of us are irreplaceable, Terry. It's just not going to go the same when I leave.
Yeah, well, that's bad leadership. Yeah, that's arrogance, your ego, and then bad leadership.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about what you're doing now.
So right now doing coaching and consulting, and then I just got linked up on. Really excited about this. Actually, just came out yesterday for some speaking engagements through Resilience Show. So
congratulations!
Yeah, so that's pretty good for.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. So really excited about that endeavor. So because, like, the online stuff is nice. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but, like, I got to be around. I like to be around people.
So where's this going?
see where it goes. You know, I don't know yet. Don't know what the future holds, you know. So I'm just kind of leaving doors open and then just meeting good people and then kind of see where it happens, you know.
Right on, man. So, well, I hope when you get big and you know, you don't forget about me over here. You're only 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, man, come back anytime. I'd love to get you back out here. I know people love the engagement. You know, you do a great job coaching and mentoring, laying out your story the way that you did. You know, it's gonna speak to the people at home. I mean, we're all going through something. We know that, but it's how do we get through it? And you know, it's stories like yours that really help to inspire, man, and give us that roadmap that we need. Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate it. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. All right, no problem. All right.